The first facet of a DUI I'd like to discuss is operation or actual physical control. Certainly operation would include anything such as driving the vehicle, manipulating the vehicle, somehow exercising control over the mechanical components of the vehicle. However, there is case law that allows an individual to be arrested, cited, and convicted of DUI even though the vehicle is not moving. The Utah legislature many years ago added the phrase actual physical control to the DUI statute. Now there's not one particular factor that definitively determines actual physical control. Instead, there's a case called Richfield City versus Walker. In attempting to define what is actual physical control, the Utah appellate courts have determined that actual physical control is what's referred to as a totality of the circumstances test to be determined by the trier of fact. In a bench trial, the trier of fact is the judge. In a jury trial, the trier of fact is the jury. But ultimately what the courts have said is there's not one single factor that's determinative of when an individual is in actual physical control. Rather, in the case of Richfield City versus Walker, the Utah Court of Appeals listed out 9 important factors in reaching that decision. However, they also instructed that juries or judges making that decision are free to consider whatever evidence they think is relevant to making their determination. The 9 factors that are to be considered are: 1, whether the defendant was asleep or awake when discovered. Certainly if an individual is in the back seat sleeping, that would be favorable to the defendant. If the individual is sitting in the driver's seat wide awake, that would be something that would be considered unfavorable to the defendant. The next step is the position of the vehicle. Where was it parked? Was it stopped at an intersection in the middle of the road, or was it pulled over appropriately in a parking lot, parked in a parking stall? The third factor is whether or not the vehicle's motor was running. Just because the motor is running does not automatically mean you are in actual physical control, but it certainly shows that you have the ability and potentially the propensity to drive a car. Likewise, even if the vehicle is not running and the keys are in your pocket, that doesn't mean that you couldn't be convicted of DUI. It's just one of the many factors. The fourth factor is whether or not the defendant was positioned in the driver's seat or where he was positioned in the vehicle. Certainly it is more likely that a jury or a judge would find someone guilty of DUI if they were positioned in the driver's seat versus in the back seat in a sleeping position or in some other way not in a position where they can operate the mechanics of the vehicle. The fifth factor is whether or not the defendant was the sole occupant. If the defendant is the only person in or near the vehicle, certainly it'd be more likely that a jury would determine that he was in fact the person driving the vehicle or was in control. However, in some cases, by the time the police officers arrive, there may have been 4 or 5 people in the vehicle. All the people are outside the vehicle, and at that point in time it may be difficult to pinpoint which one of those individuals was operating the vehicle before it came to rest. The sixth factor is whether or not the defendant had possession of the ignition key. Certainly, if you don't have the key in your possession, there's virtually no way you could be operating or in actual physical control of a vehicle. So that's a very important factor. There is case law indicating that even though somebody didn't have the ignition key, simply being behind the wheel as a car was being steered from a snowy ditch placed that person in actual physical control. But the ignition key is very important. Its absence is a very important factor in convincing the jury that you were not operating or in actual physical control. However, even if you have the ignition key, just because you have it does not mean that you are intending to drive that vehicle. So it's an important factor, but again, not a determinative factor. The sixth factor is the defendant's apparent ability to start and move the vehicle. This goes very much hand in hand with the ability to start the vehicle, meaning that you have to have the keys in order to do so. The eighth factor is, how did the vehicle get to where it was found? Was it driven there by somebody else? Had it been parked there for several days or at least several hours? Those are questions that have to be answered when determining whether or not the position of the vehicle is relevant to the determination by the judge or the jury. The final factor set forth in Richfield City versus Walker is whether or not the defendant drove the vehicle there. Once again, sometimes the vehicle may have been driven there by another person. It may have been parked there for quite some time. How the vehicle got to its position is very important. If the defendant wasn't the one who drove it, then certainly that is a factor that has to be taken into consideration. But keep in mind that these 9 factors are not solely exclusive in determining actual physical control. I've had clients found not guilty of DUI based on lack of actual physical control who've been in the vehicle, in the driver's seat, keys in the ignition, and vehicle running. I've also had clients who've been found guilty of DUI, sleeping in the back seat with the keys in their pocket. It's a determination to be made by the jury, but these factors all come into play when the jury is ultimately allowed to make that decision, and it is a critical element of the DUI. If the prosecution cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you were in actual physical control or operating the vehicle, the jury will be instructed that they cannot find you guilty of the crime of DUI.